Hello, welcome back to Losi Swim and Spas 101 on how to. Today we're going to learn how to change out a shaft seal on this here motor. I've actually loosened up a couple of the screws here so that it wouldn't take me as long to show you on this demonstration. But here you have the wet end and then the motor. The wet end houses the impeller which moves the water, and inside of this wet end is going to be the shaft seal that we're going to replace. Let's speed up this process here because the screws are already out. Should be about 8 screws on your wet end. Some are going to differ. And just about got it. So you be sure to have a Phillips screwdriver along with a couple of flathead screwdrivers and potentially channel locks and an open end oil can wrench. So the reason why you need the flat end screwdrivers is because you're going to have to pop the seal on the wet end. Sometimes there'll be a knob here for you to actually kick it out and then get a wedge on so you're able to start getting a screwdriver in. Then you'll use another screwdriver down towards the other end and work yourself all the way around. And eventually you'll be able to pop the wet end off. And as you can see, right behind here is where the impeller has housed at. And the way that we're going to have to get this impeller off would be by spinning the back of the motor around, and again using the flathead screwdriver, you will take off this cap. And as you can see, there's a little flathead spot for this to lock onto that. So we're going to spin this back around and stick the flathead screwdriver on that back shaft of the motor, and sometimes you're lucky enough to get this and spin it off with just your hand. Sometimes you're going to have to use your channel locks, and you're going to have to be very gentle when using the channel locks on the impeller because you might risk the fact of actually snapping the impeller off. That's why it comes in handy to have an open end oil can wrench so you can actually get a good grip and has a rounded edge on the locks there. But in this case, I already have the impeller loose for this video so that I can actually show it to you. And as you can see, we've got the back end of the shaft seal. And this is actually a reverse style shaft seal. Typically, on standard shaft seals, you'll have a spring-loaded shaft seal that will be on the impeller. But in this case, it's called a reverse shaft seal, where the spring is actually seated in the back of the wet end here. That's the back side here, like I said, and if you have difficulties trying to get this out, what you would have to do next would be to take out 4 of these bolts here all the way around, and then after you were to take those out, you'd pull off the entire wet end, and we would have to knock the shaft seal out with a screwdriver or something of that nature and then install the wet end back on. But in this case, we're not going to be doing that today. We're just showing you how to take shaft seals out and replace them. So in this case, we've got this shaft seal here. Sometimes you'll need a tool to get the shaft seal out, so you're able to get the seal out. So that we've got the impeller, and we have the shaft seal. So now, what we're going to do is obviously get the shaft seal back into place. So with doing so, just reverse back what we already did, and before you install the shaft seal, you want to get your O-ring lube so you're able to make sure your gasket here has a little bit of lube on it so it goes back in there smoothly. Be careful putting the shaft seal back in. Be sure to have a towel handy so you don't get O-ring lube onto the ceramic piece of the shaft seal. Sometimes you have to use something to pop that shaft seal back into place so that you get a firm, tight fit. And that's snug in there now. And we'll go ahead and reinstall the impeller shaft seal. Put a little O-ring lube on this as well. And then you can slide it right on down inside. And as you can see here, you can pop the impeller back on. Grab your flathead screwdriver, put it back on the back of the shaft, tight until hand tight. You'll feel it get tighter and tighter as you go. And once it stops, that's good enough. Don't need to over tight it. Don't want to break anything on the side of that. So after that, you're going to be getting the front of the wet end back on. And as you can see, there is some dynamics to this where you've got the water flow coming out through this direction. So we want to match that up with the direction of the water flow coming out of the wet end. And before installing the faceplate again, we are going to want to put a little bit of O-ring lube around the O-ring that's already there, so that you have a nice snug fit, plus it makes the life longer on the shaft seal. So now we'll get this reinstalled here and press firmly all the way around. Might take a couple times. Make sure it's lined up. Line up all the way, so you might want to make sure that that happens. And there you have it. After that, you're just back to installing all the screws all the way around the wet end, and then installing the motor back into the spa. And that, my friends, is how you do a shaft seal changeout. Thank you for watching.